And to answer that, brace yourselves, it's a big number. To answer that, please welcome Kana Enomoto and Thomas Seitz from McKinsey Health Institute.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay? By the way, for those of you who are thinking about wonderful seats that might be terrific for your brain, just look at that first floor up there. I think they're really having a wonderful start of the day. I'm Thomas. With me is my partner, colleague Kana. We're going to talk about the number that Vinay so nicely framed for all of us. By the way, I hope you saw he did this with the right boots that he was wearing. After almost 30 years in Texas, I still don't wear those cowboy boots for a presentation. I need to work on that. The number is 2.6 trillion, but frankly, that doesn't matter that much. It's actually a very substantial number. We were here last year. The room was probably half as full as it is today. And last year, we tried to make the case. We tried to make the case why the brain and the brain economy mattered. This year, as Vinay said, it's all about the impact. What do we do to move forward and make both Texas and Houston the center of this large opportunity? Let me put a bit of a bigger frame on this. We at McKinsey believe there are basically 4 big drivers and trends for the next decade. 4. Technology is an easy one for you to guess. Do a little bit of the guessing this morning. What might be the other 3? Next one is, of course, health. By the way, we're going to talk about those 2 this morning, 2 of the 4. Third one, pretty present in the city, is energy. And the 4th one, these days, being a very global citizen, I say unfortunately, is geopolitics and everything that is around it. You can order them in your favorite order, but basically, if you look at all the trends, you can put them under these 4 big umbrellas, and that is driving change. And those 4 umbrellas will be most critical for us to get right, to move in the right direction. 2 of those we're going to address today. And let me start with the first one, with technology, that Vinay already said is the biggest change that we are seeing from a pure workforce environment perspective. We don't do a piece of work at our firm anymore advising our clients that does not use AI or touch technology. And it is a very significant change for not just our people, but in particular for our clients. I have a couple of large-scale transformations that I'm supporting. And let me tell you, this is nothing what you've seen before. And some of you might have seen one of these amazing breakthroughs 2 weeks ago in the news when the first mathematical proof that mattered, AI has solved a few other ones, but the first one on the EDOSH problem was solved by AI in a way that is actually absolutely phenomenal when you look at the results. It's pretty easy to understand once you see the result, why that is so much better than what literally almost a century of top mathematicians did not came up with. A very creative solution combining different fields and math together to come up with that proof. Once you're getting to that analytic capability, and by the way, it was a team that did this. It was a team. It was not a person with AI in the background. It was a large, diverse team, lots of empathy. When you look at the speakers that talk about it, they all know each other. They work well together. The tool was doing the problem solving. They framed and then they helped the tool coming up with that proof. But when you see that, you get a glimpse of how the future of work is going to look like. And we see that at our clients. It works well when you do this in teams, when you attack the biggest problems. And we are now using tools that have never been used before that substitute standard tools that have been running our power systems and power dispatch in a large-scale way for decades, and do this so much better than what we could ever come up with analytically. It's a new world. It's a huge strain on the people if you don't get it right. You need to work on the skill sets. You need creativity. You need empathy, teamwork, learning ability to always be curious, to learn something new. And frankly, probably most difficult for most people is you need to stop following standard processes. Just this 1, 2, 3 thing that all of us learned at school and is so hard to unlearn, that we need far less of, because that tools can do. Now in this new world, and you might imagine I would love to talk a lot more about that, what it requires for companies and how you actually make those changes work, because there's a lot of waste in the system if you don't get it right. Not just for corporations, but for the human, for the individual that has fear and angst of what might come at them, not just losing their job, but losing their relevance. If you do it right, it augments, it supports, it helps. If you do it wrong, it's all the opposite. Now, we found a way to measure that productivity, and I'm so excited what is being done on the health side of the equation, of the brain health. I'm even more excited about the skill side that Kana, my partner colleague, who's been working at our McKinsey Health Institute for more than a decade, has led all of our research in this field, is going to talk more about now. But just to give you a few numbers right behind me to put these things in perspective, the change we are seeing on skill development is 7 times more than what we've just seen a year ago. So the pull from companies get me AI skills 7 times more than the baseline of last year. The speed at which you measure this changed, unprecedented. Unprecedented. And a bit of the problem is that about 75% of the work as we know it will be substituted. We always said in about 8 to 10 years, we now think by the year 2030 that is less than 5 years away. So substantial change. And here in Texas, and in particular in Houston, we are a bit at the epicenter. We do have this incredible medical center when you just look all around you, not just this building, but all around you, which is unmatched in the world. But we do have some of the world's toughest problems. One of the reasons I love being here, it's not only that we shot the first people to the moon from here and developed all of that, as Vinit said, but some of the most complex energy problems have been solved and are being solved here. There are few things as complex as geophysics, because it's really hard to understand what's in the middle of the Earth. There are few things as complex as running a global power system, because that is actually the largest technical infrastructure in the world. It's very, very hard to do this right. And all of that is being solved here. So we have the most difficult problems. Nothing against New York that has a few more Fortune 500 companies, but banking, no, not that complex. Sorry for that. So I always have fun with my partner colleagues serving that part of the industry. This is really the epicenter of most difficult problems. This is where we will see the application. This is where we need to get it right. Kana is going to talk about how we're going to get it right. Go ahead.
I'm going to talk about how we'd like to get it right. How many people remember when 2030 used to seem far away? Right? It's not that far away. Thomas said less than 5 years. And how many people have had a chance to download and read the report? Thank you. If you haven't, there's a QR code here. There's a QR code on a card over there. At the beginning of this year, Davos, in January, the World Economic Forum, the McKinsey Health Institute collaborated to release a report, The Human Advantage, Stronger Brains in the Age of AI. This is premised on brain health, brain skills coming together to create brain capital and be a fundamental economic driver, as well as a driver of organizational performance and community resilience. And whether you're talking about the Director General of the World Health Organization or our global managing partner, Bob Sternfels, like, it's the health and wealth of nations, it's Fortune 500 P&L, brain capital is a conversation that's happening in all of these settings. Private sector, public sector, state and local, global, community, individual, enterprise. Right? And when we talk about the age of AI, that is putting fuel into this conversation. Because how many people are working more with AI than they did 2 years ago? Right? How many are working more with AI than they were a month ago? Right? This is happening so rapidly. It's happening in all of our workplaces. It is happening in organizations. It's happening in governments. And this is transforming not only the way we work as individuals, but the way we work as teams, the way we work as companies or organizations or governments. And so it is vital that we're thinking about these investments that we need to make. So that's one of the things that we've done together with the folks in the Brain Economy Action Forum, many of whom are here today, who helped us over the last year incubate some of these ideas together with Harris, together with many of you, to create a framework looking at what is the structure of a movement? What do we need to do here? We need to study, right? We need to safeguard brain health. Right? That is investing in the prevention, the treatment, the supporting recovery of people with brain health conditions. We need to invest. We need to foster brain skills. I really want to get to investment, sorry. We need to foster brain skills. So that's not only looking at the workplace today, but future-proofing the workforce of tomorrow. We do need to study brain capital. We need to understand how to measure it, how to capture it, how to foster it. And then we need to invest, which my friend Cheryl Healy talked a little bit about yesterday. I will talk more about now. But figuring out not only how do we galvanize investment, but how do we make that investment yield the most impact and the most sustainable impact that we can and need to be doing right now. And then finally, mobilizing. And I think this gathering today is a great example of mobilization that is happening locally and globally. You know, it was just a year ago that we were here. Shout out to Kelly O'Brien and Us Against Alzheimer's and those who organized last year, and to David Gao and the folks who are organizing this year. This is amazing momentum, and we're seeing it around the world. We just had the European Brain Economy Summit. We saw momentum at Skoll, we saw momentum at World Health Assembly, we saw momentum at Davos, and of course we're going to see it again at UNGA in the fall and Davos next year. So this is happening. The Global Brain Economy Initiative, the Global Brain Economy Movement is mobilizing for action, and that's exciting and it's necessary to make this happen. But we need to move from conversation into action. And one of the critical actions is going to be investing. The top line number, Thomas mentioned it, Cheryl mentioned it, $2.7 trillion. So in the last 6 months at the McKinsey Health Institute, we've been working with stakeholders around the world, investors, governments, researchers, advocates, thinking about how much is currently being invested across the landscape. And so we looked at brain health, prevention, treatment, recovery, pharma, health systems, as well as research, prevention, and then also looking at brain skills, which was formal education, durable skills, as well as informal education and in the workplace. And what we found, the $2.7 trillion, about a third of it is going into brain health, 2/3 of it is going into brain skills, again, a lot of that in formal education, and $7 billion, or only 1%, is going into prevention. So the good news here is we're not starting from zero. There is already significant resources being invested, but one of our questions is probably not going to be about sufficiency, but about efficiency. So again, it's not necessarily about sufficiency, but also efficiency. So are we investing and allocating our capital in a way that is yielding the best impact, the most long-term sustainable results for our society? Right? Are we going down the value chain and investing where we need to be? We already have evidence that many things work. The great news is we have a lot of tools, and as you've heard yesterday and you will hear more today, the science is moving at an unbelievable pace. There are interventions that we already have, there are those that we don't yet have, that are coming at this incredible speed, and we need to be ready for that. We need to be investing appropriately, and I think we are often investing in acute stages, late-stage disease. We're investing in education, particularly in the United States. I think that leaves us performing akin to some of our middle-income country colleagues, right? We are not investing in a way that is producing the durable results that we would want to see to be optimizing our brain capital as a country. And projects like METIS are the kinds of things that are going to allow us to make those upstream adjustments, to adopt innovation, to get to scale so that we can have shifts at a population level, at industry level, and at governmental levels that we need in order to achieve the potential that we have in the brain economy. So as I said, we already have tools to move this movement forward, and there will be new tools coming in the days and years ahead. Again, 2030, only 4 years away. But are we ready for them? I believe that you all in this room, that many stakeholders that we talk to, they are ready. And in fact, they are impatient because we've been talking for a year, right? We've been talking for a year. We have mobilized movements. We have raised capital. We have started to meet. We have published reports. But have we produced results? That's what people are expecting. And while we have their attention, while we have this momentum, I think we need to shift our attention to producing those results so that we can inspire others to do more than they have.
Kana, thank you. Some of you, it's early in the morning, might have noticed that I missed just 100 billion. So it's, when you round this a bit, then you get to the wrong number. It's 2.7, not 2.6. Not that will hopefully make such a big difference by getting excited about the opportunity size here. Let me make a bit of a case why Houston and Texas, and frankly a little bit as well, why you? I shared last year when I was standing here the fact that I've been quite touched by the left hand of the equation, as I call the brain health. It's about a third of this total opportunity to get it right. I do have a daughter who had a very severe mental disorder, an eating disorder, which was not just a burden for her, but for our whole family and everybody around us. It's a terrible disease. And it is actually preventable as we start to learn. It's just early research, what you can do in early stages around it. I hate that we are not doing more in prevention, not just on that side of the brain health, but all the way to Alzheimer. And you just go through the whole spectrum of that. We need all of our mental health for all of our people, and we need to be more concerned about it. The big part of the equation, of course, is the other two-thirds. It's the brain skills. And why here? Why Houston? Why should this be a lighthouse? And why should we lead, actually not just the nation, but globally on this subject? We have some of the smartest brains. We have some of the most difficult problems, as I tried to highlight earlier. We have the infrastructure, the research, second to none. There is not a medical center like this anywhere else in the world. We've got to use it. And while I would urge you individually to work on both of those things for yourself, and I make it very pointed, I do invest in my brain health. I make sure that I'm switching off, which I did not do for 25 years, but I have very clear areas where I meditate, where I read books that have nothing to do with what I have to read, just to get into a different state of mind and switch off. My son is a coder, and I did some of that before I joined McKinsey, developed operating systems for IBM for mainframes. When I did this for 14 hours a day, yes, it was that bad, I had a pretty normal day. When he now showed me and worked with me on coding something that the two of us just invented, he said to me before that I can only work 2 or 3 hours. And I said, yeah, son, that's cool. I like to go mountain climbing too. What a great trick. I think I have a pretty good ability to focus. I've done a lot of that in our firm to an excess that sometimes people said, why are you still awake? After 10 minutes of modern coding, I was done. My brain was exhausted. I had put all my ideas into the thing, and it has come up immediately. And it's not even the best one. It was an older version of Copilot that did it. It came up with the first product, and it forced me to be more productive so fast that I was exhausted after 10 minutes. By the way, it did what we'd asked it better than he probably not, than I expected it to do. So it's a very different bar that is out there. And learning for us individually, what do we do to cope with this external world is very important. How are we productive? Now, the bigger one is actually the next chunk. How are we productive in teams? And what do we do here in Houston? How do we work together to use in this new environment the tools in the right way, be healthier, and develop new skills? It's a unique environment that we have here. From some of the work we've done, Lily, over the last months, we know how to set this up in teams. We know how they can be incredibly productive and fulfilled and not have fear. This is the thing the city can lead on. We have more problems than anybody else has, but we need to be tactical. You have a platform with Metis, the great project that is being launched between academia, business, and government here that can make a huge difference. But we've got to focus on impact. What do we really change? When do we get results on what? What are the skill profiles we're going to be learning, teaching, and how do we do it? And not just show me a high-level plan, but give me the tactics and put them to action, test them, and recycle. Again, more problems here in medical center, in the energy field, with NASA around than anybody else has. If we don't put it to work here, nobody else has as good as a platform as we have. Back to you, Ken.
So the question is not if we should invest in brain capital, because as we've seen, we already do invest in brain capital. But as we think about the emerging investment themes, the opportunities that have been discussed here, is it blood-based biomarkers? Is it digitally enabled screening and diagnosis? Is it cognitive ergonomics and workplace programs to help people adapt to think and work in a new way, to organize our structures differently so that we can be hybrid teams of agents and humans and robots? Is it investments in early childhood, in nutrition, in brain development, so that we know that we have the strength in our population to manage the challenges that are coming ahead? The question that I leave all of you with is, where will you invest your time, your energy, or your capital differently tomorrow than where you invested it yesterday and last year? So thank you very much for your time. We're excited to engage with you for the rest of today. We've given you a number. We've given you a number for the opportunity, but it takes more than a number to catalyze a movement. It takes stories. And our friends, David Gao, Rodrigo Mas, Susan Armiger, they have been thinking about how to tell a story to a person who will have not just a recognition of brain economy, but a visceral reaction to the concept of brain economy if they've never heard those words before. So with that, I will hand it over to David.
Thank you, Kana.